Lots of stuff to talk about for us Dirty Birds fans. Welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. It is official. The Falcons have signed a wide receiver, KJ Osborne. And in today's episode, we're going to break down him very briefly. We're going to talk about the best Falcons pass rush ever. Maybe. Could it become that? The quarterback issue continues between Michael Penix Jr. and Kirk Cousins, and this is exactly why you subscribe. News, rumors, all in one episode. I like the sound of that. So do me a favor, hit that big red sub button today. Let's talk about the most recent addition to the Atlanta Falcons, KJ Osborne, former Minnesota Viking, out of the 5th round, drafted in 2020 by the Vikings. Spent a majority of his tenure as a Vikings with Kirk Cousins, 655 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns in 2021, and he's got great chemistry with Kirk Cousins. I was picking the brain of our Vikings host, Mr. Patrick Seatman, and I said, does KJ Osborne do anything incredibly well? And he goes, not really. I mean, he doesn't have the greatest hands. He's not super fast. He's kind of slow-footed, but for whatever reason, it just worked with Kirk Cousins. They were always on the same page, and sometimes it is as simple as that. Sometimes it just gels with a specific player. So here's what this means for the Atlanta Falcons. They did sign him to the practice squad, which either means an immediate 53-man roster spot for KJ Osborne or an activation for Nick Nash or Chris Blair. Either way, I'm happy about it because there's another weapon going on to the Falcons, which, funny enough, sidebar here, why did it take so long to add another weapon? I digress. But you will be getting Drake London back sooner rather than later. You'll have KJ Osborne or Nick Nash or Chris Blair on the 53 by next week. So I'll ask you this question. Is this a smart signing for the Atlanta Falcons? I'm going to type my Y for yes. I don't think it can hurt whatsoever. I mean, this is a 4-7 football team. You need all the help you can get. So worst case scenario, KJ Osborne stinks, and you just cut him. You release him, and it doesn't cost you absolutely anything. All right, let's talk now very briefly about this pass rush, because I truly believe the Atlanta Falcons pass rush might be one of the best we've ever seen from this team. They currently have 39 sacks in 2025. That is 10th in franchise history. How amazing is that? And I want to highlight, because there are a ton of players that have contributed to this pass rush. I can't highlight every single player, so I'm going to highlight the 2 rookies that we just drafted in 2025. Let's start with James Pearce Jr. Fuck them picks. That's all I got to say. The dude is really coming into his own. He is a special athletic talent. And I had said earlier on in the year, and I said it in the last episode as well, he's getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks, but he wasn't finishing the plays. Now he's starting to finish the plays. I mean, this is just against the Saints. 5 pressures, 2 tackles, a sack and a half, which should have been 2 sacks, 1 pass breakup, and a pass rush win rate of 26.7. The talent is there. The finishing is there. He now has a sack in 3 straight games. It's unbelievable. So you really see the investment in this pick starting to pay off. So I know there were a lot of Falcons fans that were like, oh, we don't have a first-round pick. Way to go, Terry. I kind of understood at the time why they went out and did this. Now, am I upset that we don't have a first-round pick in 2026? Of course I am. I want as many picks as possible. I want to rebuild the franchise and make this as good as possible after we get rid of the coaching staff. But the Falcons' defense has never been an issue this year outside of maybe a couple of situational games. The Carolina Panthers just seem to have the Falcons' numbers this year. But look at what the Falcons did yesterday as well. 5 sacks, 6 for loss, 7 passes defended, 8 quarterback hits, 1 fumble, 1 interception. They caused 5 of 16 on 3rd down and 3 offensive points surrendered. I get it. It's the Saints. They suck. But this was still a really great defensive performance. This is a defensive-led team now with an offense that needs to complement how good the defense plays in spurts. It's also important to know that the pass rush also has 22 sacks in the last 4 games. That's over 5 a game. It's one of the best in the NFL, by far. I'm really excited to see where this continues to go because it just keeps getting better. Every single game, it gets better. The stunts look great. The packaging looks great. The creativity, getting Billy Bowman, who, by the way, now has a torn Achilles, so he's going to be out for the remainder of the season and probably beyond that. But every single week, everything just feels cleaner, sharper, more aggressive, and just an overall better-looking product. And the two rookies, like I said, we're going to focus on Walker and Pearce. They're both outstanding this year, both with 4 tackles for loss. Jalon Walker has 5 sacks. James Pearce Jr. has 4. But Pearce has more pressures, also with 9 quarterback hits. The only thing that's slightly different is that Jalon Walker is a better player against the run. So that's why his PFF grade is a little bit higher than James Pearce Jr.'s. But I'm okay with that. If Jalon Walker becomes the guy that is great against the run and the pass, and James Pearce Jr. just becomes your get after the quarterback guy, you've got 2 players that will excel in this defense for years to come. So before I continue on with the quarterback news, I want to ask you a question because this is a positive thing for the Dirty Birds. The Falcons have a top blank pass rush in the NFL right now. I honestly think, and this is no joke, I think it's top 6. I would say it's absolutely top 6. I don't think it's quite at the level of the Denver Broncos. I don't think it's quite at the level of the Houston Texans. But you can definitely make an argument that it's somewhere between 3 and 6. Now, before we continue on, like I said, talking about the quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix Jr., I have to tell you about our friends over at PrizePicks. The holidays are definitely here. Gotta love those holiday seasons. And that's where our friends at PrizePicks come into play. Did you know that basketball matchups, playoff pushes, it's all happening all at once? And while you and I are out making decisions every single day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, what games to watch, there is one place where it always feels good to be right. That's PrizePicks. They got a new feature that's yours for the picking. PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may have the option to cash out those winnings before even the game finishes. If your fantasy season is already over, if your team is cooked, just download the PrizePicks app today. I don't even have to wait until every single year to do a new draft. Every week you can pick your favorite players and win when they win. I did make a lineup for this coming week, Thanksgiving week. Bryce Young, the more on the passing yards. Christian McCaffrey, the more on the rushing and receiving yards. And then Ted McMillan, rushing and receiving touchdowns. Your lineup can look just like this, but it doesn't have to. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It is good to be right. All right, so I want to go back to this really quick because I know that there were a lot of Falcons fans that got down in the comment section, and they had a lot of really strong opinions and strong takes. And I understand that this is kind of an infuriating topic, right? Because it did look so different when Kirk Cousins was under center this week. I'm also aware that last year, Kirk Cousins was in the pistol all the time. But something changed this week, and Raheem Morris said that Kirk Cousins is more comfortable under center than Penix is. You could call Raheem Morris a lot of things. You can't call him a liar. He's not a liar. He might not be great at the microphone. He might not be a great head coach. He might not even be a great coordinator. But what he is truthful. He would never lie about this. But here's my question for you, Raheem and Zach and Terry. Why would you take a quarterback 8th overall if he doesn't like playing under center? That is one of the hallmarks of playing quarterback at the NFL level. Also, isn't it your job to develop him? Correct me if I'm wrong, producer Reed, but head coaches and offensive coordinators, they're supposed to develop young quarterbacks. You don't have to develop Kirk Cousins. He's already a finished product. Michael Penix Jr. is a lump of clay to mold. So either you were neglectful in your self-scouting of Michael Penix Jr., shame on you, or 2, you just thought he could just develop as a rookie quarterback, essentially, which is also a shame on you. And remember, this is a team that was almost dead last in playing under center. Going into the game against the Saints, here were the numbers of where the Atlanta Falcons ranked going under center. 31st in the NFL. What's something you notice about all these teams? The New Orleans Saints, terrible record. Chiefs, positive record, but one of the worst they've had in so long. The Bengals, losing record. Falcons, losing record. Washington Commanders, losing record. And then on the flip side, the inverse of this, the top 5 teams under center. Los Angeles Rams, probably the best team in the NFL right now. Seattle Seahawks, positive record. San Francisco 49ers, positive record. Lions, Bears, playoff teams, guys. Playoff teams, the best NFL offenses play under center. It opens up play action. That is one of the benchmarks of a successful NFL offense. Anybody with a brain, my mother could watch that and say, yeah, you should probably do what those guys are doing. And yet somehow Zach Robinson and Raheem Morris believe that their shit doesn't stink and that they can run their successful offense from the pistol. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Speaking of the Falcons' play action rate, which, by the way, was also dead last in the NFL up until the Saints game. It still might be dead last. But did you know, on 23 passing attempts yesterday, the Falcons ran 9 play action attempts. That's 32% compared to the 9% they had going into the game. On those 9 attempts, Kirk Cousins completed 7 for 117 yards and a touchdown. One of the incompletions, by the way, was a drop. And I'm pretty sure that was on Kyle Pitts. So we could essentially look at this and go, Kirk would have been 8 for 9 for about $135 and a touchdown on play action. I honestly don't know why they didn't do this sooner or why it changed so quickly. Maybe it was Kirk that went to Zach Robinson and said, we're going to run these different concepts against the Saints. Maybe it was Zach Robinson that said, I have more faith in Kirk Cousins to run this style of offense than I do with Michael Penix. Maybe it's a combination of both. Either way, it had to have fixed or been fixed earlier than where we're at now. Because even though we're only 2 games beyond the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I still feel like the playoffs are a pipe dream. Maybe not mathematically, but look at the standings. Tampa Bay, 6-5. Carolina, 6-5. Falcons, 4-7. If the Carolina Panthers lose tonight and they're 6-6, you have legitimately a chance to make the playoffs. And I'm not saying that like, holy cow, we're going to make a playoff push. This is still a team that is light years away from being a playoff team in my eyes. But mathematically speaking, you still have a chance to do this. So why on earth are we just making these decisions now? Why do we have to wait until the sky is falling and everybody's calling for everyone's jobs before somebody makes a smart decision? Zach Robinson finally allows this team to go under center. You finally sign another weapon. It just makes literally no sense. So this is just more coaching incompetency, in my opinion. And yet, at the same time, we're doing things right now, at least somewhat. It's a step in the right direction. I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching here. Maybe I'm just a YouTube host. Maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist. But something feels weird to me right now about this season. Something feels odd. I can't quite put my finger on it because when we win a game, it's almost like we make smarter decisions. And when we lose games, we double down on bad decisions. I just don't get it. All I do know is the Falcons signed a wide receiver. Kirk Cousins played under center. And the Falcons won a football game against the Saints. That's all I got for you today. Rise up and be cool.